Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Noor Ibrahim Mukhtar from the Department of Adult Education Extension Services, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, Nigeria. I'm happy to have an audience with you. Uh, this time around, I would like to talk about adult education experiential learning. In other words, to lead us in exploring the relationship that exists between adult education and experiential learning. In other words, to have a look at the implication of adult education, to see the implication of experiential learning in adult education. It is imperative that we shouldn't just delve into discussing the relationship or the application, rather the implication of experiential learning in adult education without first explaining what adult education is. And adult education cannot be clearly explained, and the concept of adult education cannot have justice without explaining the two concepts, or rather the two words that come together to make it up, because adult education is a combination, is a compound noun, and as well it is a combination of two different words but related words, that is adult and education. Therefore, we will now begin to have a look at the concept of adult. Adult is being, defined in different perspectives. And these perspectives, as a result of considering some factors, biological factor, legal factor, social factor, psychological factor, and as well social construct. So it is this factor that now, come up with the different perspectives of an adult, or who an adult is. From the biological perspective, an adult person is a person that exhibits some biological features which are different in the two sexes, I mean male and female. In male human individual, there are some certain biological, indicators that indicate adulthood of the person, like having some hairs in some areas, particularly in the face, like beard, mouth ache, and also, hairs in the armpit and hairs in the, you know, uh, uh, um, the velvet hair, I mean. So if a male person has this, is biologically termed to be matured, is biologically termed to be an adult person. Another one is in the case of a female individual. In the case of a female individual, there are certain biological, features that determine that this person is an adult. Like, for example, having a protruding breast on the chest, voice pitch, and as well as enlargement of the hips and buttocks. So from this perspective, we can see an adult is a person that exhibits these biological features. The next perspective is legal perspective. According to the legal system of different places, different countries, an adult is being determined using particularly or mostly the, age index. For example, here in my country, Nigeria, an adult person is a person that reaches the age of 18. The age of 18. In some countries, it is 16. And some countries, it's even 14. So from the legal perspective, an adult is a person that reaches a a certain, legal status, which is relative in relation to the place, to the laws of any given country. Another perspective of an adult, of who an adult is social perspective. From the social perspective, there are some certain social, views, or rather some certain social, beliefs that are attached to the meaning of who an adult is. So, socially, an adult is a person that is able to shoulder some social responsibilities. Like, for example, he can be able to run a family. He can be able to marry. He can be able to fend for others and do some other social activities. Another perspective of who an adult is the psychological perspective. From the psychological perspective, an adult is somebody who is matured. Somebody who is matured. And maturity depends on some psychological and physical features. So psychologically is somebody who is mentally matured, physically developed, like for example a person of a certain height, a person who can think and understand things in abstract. Another perspective of who an adult is the social construct perspective. A construct is referred to as a popular belief among a certain group of people, that they believe this thing is either A, B, X, Y, Z. That is a social construct. In other words, social construct refers to how a group of people look at a thing. So an adult person could be a product of a social construct. The way a society, a community, a group of people see an adult may be different from the other group or community or society. So essentially, an adult person is a person who is biologically matured, socially responsible, psychologically matured, and ripe enough to face the challenges of life. In other words, an adult person is a person that is the opposite of a minor, that is not be seen to be a small kid or a small person. That is an adult person. The next one is the concept of education. Education is a relative term that is being, considered differently in different perspective by different people and different group of people. Different definitions have been posed with regards to education. One of them is, or some of them are, for example, number one, education is the process of preparing an individual to be useful to himself and the society. So, in that case, education is not only related to certification, meaning that if somebody acquires a certificate, he is educated. What if he acquires the certificate but he cannot, defend the certificate? So, in essence, education is a process of preparing an individual to be useful to himself and to the society. And he cannot be able to be useful to himself and to the society without acquiring a knowledge and having a knowledge and acquiring a skill. So, a process where an individual is equipped with some skills and knowledge is referred to as education, as according to this definition. So Essentially, going by this definition, we can see that education is something that is not only restricted to schools, but rather education is found everywhere. Inasmuch as education is the process of preparing an individual to be useful to himself and to society, therefore, that preparation could be found in school, at home, in the neighborhood, in everywhere where a person lives his life. Another definition of education is both formal and informal training that one receives to update his knowledge, acquire skills, and guide personal disposition. So according to this definition, education involves training both formally and informally. Formally means in a school environment, and informal means in an environment which is without the school. That is a training that someone receives in school and somewhere else apart from school. For example, um, during a seminar, a workshop, apprenticeship, and any other place that somebody could be trained, inasmuch as he receives an update to his knowledge, meaning that he increases in knowledge and acquires some skills that he can use, both hard and soft skills. Hard skills sometimes refer to what somebody can do physically with his limbs, and the soft skill refers to something that one knows in his brain. So, and the person can be able to use this knowledge and skills to guide his personal disposition. That is, to guide his actions, to guide his doings, to guide what he does in life and what he does with his life to achieve success. So that is the concept of education. In addition to this, there is another definition by Julius Nyerere, where he sees education as a means to bring about human liberation and equality, and for communities to advance collectively toward a good society. So going by this definition, we can see education is referred to as a means, in other words, as a method to bring about human liberation from all bondage. That is, to lead human beings to self-actualization, to lead human beings to freedom, to lead human beings to an upgrade in their social and personal status, and as well to make them equal to their equals, that there should be no injustice, no segregation, no no inferiority complex, and as well no superiority complex. Everybody is being treated equally in proportion to his own status and his own condition and circumstance and own context. And education is as well meant to advance communities, to make communities advance towards a good society. And a good society is a society where there is, equal opportunity for every other member of the society, where basic needs of individual members of the society are met, where everybody lives a convenient and comfortable life. Education is different types. We have formal education, informal and non-formal education. Formal education is a rigid form of education that is, based within the confines of some laws, a defined procedure, and as well, and as well, a specified method while we have informal, which is less rigid than the informal. For example, literacy classes that the adults undergo, where they are not as rigid as, the formal school education, where you will have to come to the school on a given time, but and they will not consider your own, convenience. They will just fix the time. But in the case of informal education, you know, the circumstances, the excuses of the person concerned are also considered before making the timing, and as well before designing, the curriculum content. And we then have non-formal, which has no any shape. You can, have it as you live your life everywhere. For example, you can learn language as you live. You can learn a given language as you live within the speakers of that language, without feeling that you are in a classroom. You are being controlled by, so you as you live your life anyhow. So this is about the concept of adult and the concept of education. So now, the concept of adult education. As we can see, adult education is a combination of the two words that we have just explained, that is adult and then education. So now that you know who an adult is and we know who, education is, we join the two together, we now come up with what is referred to as adult education. So we now give a look at it and see what adult education is. Michael Welton refers to adult education as assisting adults in constructing their own knowledge about their life and world through participatory research. So if you look at this definition as, posited by Welton, we can see that adult education is more of assistance to the adult. It's more of assistance to the adult, as assistant in the sense that you just serve as a guide. The adult educator, or rather the adult facilitator, serves as a guide. He just guides the adults to learn on their own. To learn on their own. And from the learning, they construct their own knowledge about their life, and to as well form a worldview, their personal worldviews, through participatory research, that is through participation. They participate, they do the things, and they learn from them themselves. So in essence, going by this Welton definition, we can see adult education is participatory in nature. The adult educator only designs the program, have his own assumption, and subject the adults to the program, and the adults begin to learn on themselves under the supervision of the adult educator. Yes. The next one is the definition of adult education according to UNESCO, that is UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, where it says adult education is the entire body of organized educational processes, irrespective of the content, level, method, and whether it falls into the realm of formal or otherwise, including schools, colleges, universities, or apprenticeship. So going by this definition of UNESCO, we can see, adult education is not only restricted to non-formal and formal education. Because to a layman, in most of the cases, adult education is mentioned, the layman becomes to be, begins to think of non-formal and informal education. In most of the cases, they begin to think about, literacy education, where people are being taught the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetics. But adult education is far beyond this. Whatever is being done, to improve the living condition and to as well boost the status of an adult is what is referred to as adult education. As the education has been offered in the colleges, in universities, in schools, and at whatever level is meant for the, personal development of the individual. So in essence, even university education and other tertiary, institution education is adult education because it involves the adults. The students there are all adults, as we explain who an adult is. The next one, so this is the meaning of adult education. Essentially, adult education refers, to a process of preparing adults to, update their knowledge, acquire, required and relevant skills, and to as well develop a better attitude for the progress and development of their personal and social life. So there is an important issue in adult education, which is adult learning, because adult education is about the learning of the adults. And sometimes adult learning is used interchangeably in the place of adult education. So adult learning includes all activities beyond basic education and is not necessarily related to the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetics. So as we can see, adult learning is beyond basic education, because the moment basic education is mentioned, the moment adult education is mentioned, or rather adult learning is mentioned, somebody may begin to think that it talks about basic education, where the person learned to read and write, being a school dropout. So adult learning is not only restricted to school dropouts, but rather it is far beyond that. It involves taking care of the learning needs of an adult, be he a school attendee or a school dropout. Adult learning is lifelong activity, qualifying an individual to assert self in different contexts according to skills required and knowledge. So adult learning is a lifelong process, because in different stages of life, one requires to have one knowledge or the other for him to live a comfortable life. For example, an academic who pursued his degrees when there was no computer, and he has been fortunate to have lived up to the time of computer age. Though he's an academic, he may even be a professor in his own field, but yet he will have to update his knowledge. He will have to update his knowledge so that he should acquire computer knowledge, so that he can be able to upgrade himself and to as well continue to maintain relevance in his own work of academics. Another example is an accountant who had no knowledge of modern accounting computer applications. What his knowledge was analog. He was used to dealing with account papers. Now that it is the age of different applications, it is the age of ICT, that is information communication technology, he will have to update his knowledge. He will have to undergo an adult learning with regards to that application. He will have to acquire them. He will have to know how to use them so that he can maintain relevance and continue to actualize himself and go with the current trends. So adult learning has different theories. Adult learning has different theories. Before we delve into mentioning or explaining some of the theories, we'll have to know what a theory is. A theory is an ideal or hypothetical set of facts, principles, or circumstances. A theory is, in most of the cases, hypothetical. Hypothetical means something that you assume to be right or wrong, or something that you assume to be A, B, X, Y, Z. And you normally don't have assumption without some facts. You can assume based on some facts unless when your assumption is proven to be right or wrong. So a theory can be defined as a supposed way of doing things. In other words, a theory refers to what one assumes supposed to be this or that, or an assumption of how things should be done that one has. That is a theory. So if we say learning theories, we are referring to those supposed ways learning should take place, or supposed ways about what learning is all about. So in adult learning, we have different learning theories that explain the nature of how adults learn. Theories like humanist theory of adult learning, transformative learning, and experiential learning theories. So experiential learning is one of these theories. This theory wants to explain about learning on the basis of experience, how experience could be used to promote learning. So ELT, that is experiential learning theory, views learning as a process by which knowledge is created, and significant learning occurs through the transformation of one's experience and reference to it. Experiential learning, from the explanation that I have just made, refers to what one uses from what he experienced in life to build up his own knowledge, and to as well make reference to that experience to prove whether something he believes is right or wrong. Is right or wrong. Uh, in other words, experiential learning is the theory that says learning can effectively and essentially take place through one's experience. It is someone's experience that will add to his knowledge and as well guide his actions and his decisions. For example, from experience, a cook may know the amount of salt that he should put in an amount of soup. He might have put a certain amount on a certain day and the salt was over. There may be another day that put a certain amount of salt and the salt was okay. So from there, he can see the two endings, that if he adds an so amount of salt, the salt will be over. If he amounts so amount of salt, the salt will be okay. So that is experiential learning, or that is what experiential learning is all about. Essentially, it wants to tell us that learning can take place from experience. So there are some steps that are involved in experiential learning. The first one is action or condition. The second one is reflection, and the third one is reinvestment. Uh, According to this ELT, that is experiential learning theory, one learns first by acting. He learns first by acting. It is when you act, you will see the result of the action. And from the result of action, you begin to reflect, to ponder about it, to critically examine what it's all about, and to as well determine the nature of the action and as well the result. And from there, one updates his knowledge and reinvest the knowledge that he gets from the action and the reflection. That is to use the acquired knowledge and know-how in actions or circumstances to come. For example, if a farmer, for example, a farmer uses a certain amount of fertilizer on his farm for a period of time, and he observes that he gets more yields by using that amount of fertilizer, he can now, acquire knowledge that so amount of fertilizer, if it is applied on a farm, it gives more yield than any other amount. So with this knowledge, he can conclude that that amount of fertilizer, if it is applied on the farm, it will always result in more yields and more farm produce. So making use of this acquired knowledge is what is referred to as reinvestment, meaning that he has acted, he has reflected, he has examined the result of his action, and now concluded that this is what is supposed to be done from the action and from the reflection, and he will continue to make use of that knowledge. That is reinvestment. That is the 3 stages involved in experiential learning. For one, that is to say, for one to learn from his experience, he will have to act. That is, he will have to do the action, and as well study the results in the action, and from the result of the action he can have a knowledge about the given thing that he wants to know about. That is why sometimes in natural sciences they have laboratories where they go and do tests and do some lab works to see the effect of one thing against the other. The next one is experiential learning approaches. What we mean by experiential learning approaches is the way one should use experiential learning. And these approaches, or rather these ways, are case study, role playing, oral history, life stories, and trial and error. For someone to learn from experience, you will have to have a case studies, to study some cases. For example, if one wants to know the reasons of insecurity in a community, he can take a case of a community where there was prevalent insecurity and study the reasons behind that insecurity. For example, here in northern part of my country, there is prevalence of kidnapping and armed banditry. There is a case of kidnapping and armed banditry, and studies have proven that one of the reasons of the prevalence of kidnapping and armed banditry is illiteracy and unemployment. Poverty, illiteracy, and unemployment. A person who is illiterate is easily to be lured into criminality. He can easily be lured into criminality. He can be easily recruited into criminal activities. He can easily be recruited into organized crime activities. A person as well who is poor, poverty results in destitution and desperation. If someone is desperate, he can go to any length of satisfying his need without considering the moral issues there. He can do anything. There has been so many cases of young ladies who have been into prostitution out of poverty. I can remember there was a case that was related to me in an area somewhere in Nigeria where an orphaned young lady with her small siblings had a case. The case was that the young lady was into prostitution, and people in her neighborhood were complaining. They confronted her and complained to her that why was she into prostitution? The response from the lady was that you knew our parents died. We have no any other person to take care of us. And I have kid siblings that cannot fend for themselves. And I'm the only person who is grown enough to fend for them. And I don't have the wherewithal to do so. And you people in the neighborhood did not extend any hand of help to us. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about our situation. Nobody cares about the suffering we are undergoing. And then, why shouldn't I go into prostitution to make a living? So you see, this is a case. This is a case that proves that yes, poverty can lead to criminality. Poverty can lead to social vices. Poverty can wreak havoc on individual and collective members of a society. So a case study is one of the approaches to experiential learning, because from the case, one will experience a lot and will update his knowledge from a lot of facts that are contained in the case. Another one is role play. Role playing is another approach to experiential learning. If one plays a role, he can be able to learn so many things from the role that he plays. He or she plays. For example, if someone leads, for example, a group of people, he will play the role of a leader to the group of people. And from playing the role of the leader, the person will definitely learn a lot as far as leadership is concerned, as far as followership is concerned, as far as people's, habit, attitude, and behavior are concerned. Another approach is oral history. From the oral history, a lot could be learned because oral history involves, an account of experience of the past people. That is where they say history is to inform about the past, to guide the present and predict the future. That is why we study history in so many, schools, and as well we teach history to our children and to our, other, brothers and sisters so that they can learn from the history. And it is a proven fact that oral history, particularly in African culture, is the, one of the common methodologies or one of the common methods that were used in traditional African, education, where an older person seats younger ones around him and begin to relate, stories to them, particularly folklores involving involving individuals, sometimes even animals. And the essence is for them to learn from the experience they are contained in the history. So oral history, in other words, folklore, could be used in experiential learning. It is an experiential learning approach where from the narrative of the experience, the persons that are subjected to the approach can be able to learn a lot of things, to update their knowledge, to acquire some skills, and to as well guide their decisions and actions. Another one is life stories. Life stories is also an approach to experiential learning, where the learners are exposed to life, to some given life stories, that they will learn a lot of things. Life stories, for example, like biography, autobiographies. Me personally, I'm fond of reading biographies and autobiographies, particularly of, known persons and celebrities, because from there you can learn a lot of things. You can learn from their success stories and learn from their failure story to, acquire the success and to as well avoid, the failures. And the last one is trial and error. Trial and error is also another, example, is also another approach to experiential learning. It is more of an adventure because it is a situation whereby someone will just delve into something without knowing what the circumstance will be. That is why it is adventurous. One will have to take the bull by the horn and indulge in it with an intention of learning therefrom. Though it is risky, but it pays when someone learns something without losing his own life. So that is trial and error. You give it a try to see whether it is right or wrong, to see whether it works out or it does not work out. So these are the approaches of experiential learning. If we look at all of them, we can see they are, experience providing approaches. They all provide an experience to the person concerned. Case study, role playing, oral history, life stories, trial and error, all this provide a source of experience from which an individual can learn, relearn, and sometimes even unlearn. So now the next thing is we should look at the application of experiential learning in adult education. So an adult having lived a significant number of years in life have had an embodiment of experiences. Therefore, teaching adults their experiences can be used in helping them to conceptualize concepts and acquire knowledge and skills. So adults are believed to be a reservoir of knowledge. Why are they a reservoir of knowledge? It is because having lived a period in their life, they must have experienced a lot of things that could be used to guide their learning, that could be used to help and assist their learning, that could help in them learning easily and conveniently. For example, if a group of adults were taught about the importance of an agricultural innovation like a wet seed, the seed can be given to them to try and see the difference. From the experience in trying of the seed, they can learn the importance of the seed innovation. That is to say, when they use the seed, you don't need to explain to them. You don't need to do, marketing talkings. You don't need to do any sweet mouth to them. Just give them the seed. Let them give it a try. When they give it a try and they see, the usefulness of it, and they see how impacting it is, and they see how yielding it is, you don't need to explain the importance to them. They will automatically learn the importance from their experience, that they could be able to explain it to any other person. So by so doing, you can see that they have acquired a knowledge of the importance of the seed. And as well, they have conceptualized what the seed is all about. And they can be able to explain it and as well, sell the idea to any other person. So in essence, experiential learning is believed to be one of the, impactful and most useful, theories as far as adult education and learning is concerned. Adults supposed to be, adult learning is supposed to be learner centered, because the adults are matured enough that they can be able to learn on their own by the guidance of the adult facilitator. So there are a lot of things involved in adult education that this experiential learning should only be the only method probably to be, adopted. Programs like programs like community reorientation and sensitization, programs like civic education, programs like environmental education, programs like healthcare education, and many more, women empowerment, and many more. Experiential learning could be used. So essentially, experiential learning is a theory, or rather, experiential learning is a product of the theory of experiential learning theory. And experiential learning is a way of teaching adults through the use of their own different personal experiences. That is experiential learning. So the relationship that exists between experiential learning and adult education is that of supporting. In other words, experiential learning supports or goes a long way in supporting adult education, because it helps the adult to be able to learn easily, conveniently, effectively, and efficiently. So this is my take about adult education as experiential learning, and I hope you have enjoyed the audience. I will recommend some reading materials for further information, and the reading materials are three. Number one is a book titled Study Guides in Adult Education by Paul Belanga. The next one is titled Innovations in Experiential Learning for Adult Learners by Amanda G.S. and Gina City. The third one is Adult Teaching and Learning User's Guide by the Army University Center for Teaching and learning excellence, Kansas, USA. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you have enjoyed the lecture. God bless.